Praise the Lord. This is Pastor Leevone of the House of the Lord Church in the city of Virginia Beach, Virginia. And I'm back again to talk to you about most women have never really been loved by a man. This is an addition to what we have been talking about the last several weeks. And of course, this is an extension of the House of the Lord Church ministry called Get Your Power Back. On the last segment, we were talking concerning value, placing value on yourself as an individual. And today, I want to continue that subject, specifically talking about the equity of a single woman, the equity of a single woman. I like to use metaphors when I'm talking things that people can relate to. So when I use equity, I'm relating that to a house. If you're familiar with purchasing a house, you will know what I'm talking about. If you're not familiar, take some notes and look up these words when we talk about equity to see what that word means. Of course, I will give you the definition of the word equity, but I really want you to understand why I'm using something like a house, which is of value. In most cases, if you will ever spend any money on anything, a house may be the most expensive thing that you will ever buy. So I'm comparing a house to a single woman. All right. And so a woman's equity is worth more than on the market value when she knows her equity, or if she has built-in equity. Now, time, which we all are using time, and I'm using time right now. Your time is more valuable than money. So I'm going to explain what equity means, but I want you to understand that time is more valuable than money, because in most cases, in order to purchase a house, you need money. But I want to also use a scripture in the Gospel of St. Matthew, the 6th chapter, in the 21st verse. It says, "For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." St. Matthew, the 6th chapter, the 21st verse. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Now, let me explain this word equity, or give you the definition for the word equity, or what it means. An equity is what is built into a house or an item. The value, making it worth more than what is owed on it. Okay? So for an example, if you have a house that is worth $150,000 and you've already paid $100,000 on that house, you have $50,000 worth of equity already built into that house. All right? And so meaning, if someone wanted to buy the house, the buyer is going to purchase the house for less than what it is worth. If the house is only owed $100,000 owed on it, someone could buy that house from you for $100,000 and pay off the note. But if you have already paid $50,000 on the house and brought the debt down, there's $50,000 of equity built into the house. And so the buyer of the house can come out with $50,000 already built into the equity of the house, meaning the house could be worth $150,000, but the buyer's only going to pay $100,000 to pay the house off because the seller wants to get rid of the house. All right? The buyer in this case is the one who wins or comes out with a good deal. Now, in some cases, the seller, it may be a good deal for the seller too, because they no longer can afford to pay the note. So it can be a win-win situation for both. But we're looking at the equity, the $50,000 that's already paid towards the note on this house. The buyer has paid it. Excuse me, the seller has paid it. The buyer wants to pay what's left owed. And if you turn it around the other way, if the buyer pays a full $150,000 for this house, and the seller has already paid $50,000 down on the house, on the note, the seller is going to get $50,000 back plus the $100,000 to pay off the house. Or in some cases, it could be even more than $50,000. And many times, this is depending on the market value. The market goes up, just like the price of gas. It goes up and it comes down. The market value of a house can go up and come down. And I use this metaphor, I use this example to talk to you women primarily about your equity, what's already built in. And I said earlier about time being more valuable than money. If you understand the explanation that I gave to you about equity, what equity is, it's already built in. It's something of value, and you can use it because it's valuable. You can have leverage when you have something that's of value. You have leverage with it. If you have nothing of value, you have no leverage, no bargaining at the table when you have nothing. If the scripture says, and it does says, where your heart is where your treasures are. If your treasure in your heart are in the same place, and you understand equity, you understand value, you understand worth, what that means is when you're being proposed to, and I don't mean in the sense of someone proposing to marry you, but someone approaching you, like a man, of course, we're talking about, as considering to be involved with you in a relationship. If you understand and know your value, and if you know what's already built into your life prior to meeting the man, like a house, like the seller. The seller already knows how much money he has already paid towards the note on the house before he puts it or she puts it up for sale. So the seller is in the position, if he or she has already paid down on the note, to be able to sell that house and make or earn the money back that was paid. And if the market has gone up, the seller can get more money back than what the seller put into it. All right? I use these metaphors to try to help you to think about things that you can relate to, like money. You know, what you're getting in return for your time, because time is what we use, what we're paid for when you go to work. You're paid by your employer for your time that you invest, how many hours you work. I want you to think young ladies, and when I say young ladies, I don't mean specifically your age, but I'm just saying that as a way of speaking to you. Women, you need to know your value. You need to know what's already built in, what's already earned, already paid for before someone approaches you about a relationship. So if a buyer is approaching a seller about purchasing a house, the seller already knows what the house is worth. How does he or she knows? Because a house is appraised. I'm sure, I hope that you've already heard that word used many times, appraiser. If you have a car accident and you need to know how much damage is done to the car, the insurance company will send an appraiser out to see if the car is worth repairing or write it off as a total loss, because the appraiser says, the appraiser may conclude that the damage is going to cost more to repair. It's going to cost more to repair the damage than what the car is worth. It's not worth repairing the car because the car is only worth, let's say $600, and the damage is $1,000. And we can go up, but using those basic numbers, there would be no reason to pay $1,000 to repair a car if it's only worth $600. And so appraiser, like your mother or your father or someone who has your best heart at interest, is someone who can tell you or knows you and know what you are worth to them. For example, all of my children, I have invested in them in some way or another. In some way or another. Parents who raise their children, who feed them, who provide for them, who send them off to school, put clothes on their back, and they do that year in and year out. The parent, the guardian, is investing in that child. And all those years, it's like paying on a house. All of those years, your parent, your guardian, the one who provides for you, is investing in you. Before you ever meet a man, young ladies, women, before you ever meet a man who's interested in having you in his life, someone before that man or other people before that man have already built equity into your life, built value into your life. And if you fail to recognize what has been invested into your life before you meet a man, you will conduct yourself as though no one ever invested anything in you at all. And so a seller who's unaware of the market value on his house, if the house is worth $100,000, a buyer can come by and offer him $50,000. If the seller doesn't know what the house is really worth, the seller would say, okay, I'll take $50,000 for this house. The house is paid off anyway. But if the seller knew the value, that the house is worth $100,000, and if it's worth $100,000, that he should be able to get $100,000 for the house, because he knows what it's worth. When a woman knows what she is worth, like a house, no seller, no owner of a house is just going to sell a house for $50,000 when he knows or she knows that it's worth $100,000. Doesn't that make sense to you? I want you to think like that. What are you worth? What has already been built into your life as a woman? Because men are like buyers. They're always trying to get a good deal. Amen. And the scripture says in Matthew 6 chapter 21st verse, it says, where your treasures are, there your heart is. If your heart is displaced, disconnected from your treasure, if your heart is disconnected from your value, then you don't treasure yourself. And it could be many times, as I said 2 weeks ago, it could be because no one placed value on you. And when no one placed value on you, you don't really know what you're worth. That is the reason why I'm coming to you on Facebook Live, to try to help you to see and understand who you are, why God created you the way he created you, and the value that God has placed on you. See, money can be replaced, but time cannot. It's just like when you put something on the exterior of a house, like paint, or women put makeup on. It's pretty much the same thing. You paint your face. It's like painting a house. These things are on the exterior. Paint and makeup does not automatically add value to the interior of the house. Are y'all listening to me? Paint on the outside of a house makes it look good. And I suppose that many of you women believe when you put makeup on that it makes you look better. Paint on the outside of the house does not change the interior of the house, the value of the house on the inside. A woman putting makeup on her face does not change what's going on the inside of her. Now, she might feel better about herself because she believes she looks better. But when the appraiser comes out to look at a house, the appraiser is not only interested in the outside appearance of a house to know the true value, the real value of that house in during the market, because again, the market can go up and down. What a gallon of gas was worth 50, 60 years ago, 46 cents a gallon. Can't get a gallon of gas in America for 46 cents a gallon back in, like it was 1960s, 1970s. So the value can change depending on the time that you're living in. But no matter what time you're living in, ladies, you need to always know your value so you can always get what you're worth. But if you don't know what you're worth, you can work on the exterior and appeal on the outside to be valuable based on how you look. But the real value of a woman is her equity, what's already built in her, built inside of her before you meet a man. All right? Talking about the single woman. Now, last week we talked about single people, but I'm focusing on the equity, the value of a single woman. The value that you place on yourself, the value that you place on yourself will determine who you will allow into your inner circle. All right? Your inner circle or your community. If you don't have money or credit to move into what we call a nice neighborhood, a nice community, even though you may like the house, the fence, or the lake, or the trees, or the bricks, or whatever that may be, about that house or that community that you like, you cannot move into a community without having something of value to purchase a house in that community. All right? Every woman that understands her value like a house. A man can't just move into your community because he likes the way you look without understanding what is required of him financially, but not financially only. I'm using that as a metaphor because time and money are interchangeable. Yeah, they're interchangeable. You get paid for your time. And I said earlier that time is more valuable than money. So here is how a woman knows whether a man has what he needs to move into her community. Because time is more valuable than money, right? You can replace money, but you can't replace time. I can't go back 5 minutes ago and make up for that time because it's gone. It's gone. I'll never be able to go back and do anything 5 minutes ago. But I can lose $5 and pick up another $5 and I'm whole. But time, you lose time. And when a woman is living and she's young, and many of you say your clock is ticking, and you spend a lot of time on your exterior, on the outside, trying to give a presentation of who you are based on how you look on the outside. But how you know that someone has appraised your full value is not based on how you look on the outside. It's when they come in on the inside. Yeah. An appraiser, in order to write a full appraisal report on a house, he or she must come in on the inside and look around and see how the house is functioning. You know, how many bathrooms, the size of the rooms, and you know, how many bedrooms, and does it have ceiling fans, and is it central air, is it central heat? All of these components are part of developing the value of coming up with what a house is worth. If a man does not come in on the inside where your heart is and appraise your value based on what's already there, he's only interested in how you look on the outside. Or you're only interested in how you look on the outside, not realizing that your real value is on the inside. Yeah, your real value is on the inside, not on the outside. If the house is you know, the paint is peeling on the outside, but everything on the inside is in good condition, the house still has plenty of value to it. Many times you can look well on the outside, but on the inside you're hurting. You're not doing well. You have things going on the inside that are not being appraised, are not being investigated, are not being reviewed, are not being discovered. And it takes time to get to know you, woman. It takes time to get to know you. This is why I say most women have never really been loved by a man. Because a man has to know your value in order to love you, to appreciate you, to understand you, to relate to you. And if he never gets to know you from the inside, he places value based on what he sees on the outside. Now, another thing that goes on in a community is that if you tear down old houses and build new ones, it increases the property value of the community. The value of the community goes up, so the houses are worth more when you tear down the old houses and build newer houses. I use this metaphor again as an example to say, when you tear down certain things in your life that are not of value, like old houses, you increase your value as a woman. Yeah, you get rid of some nonsense things, wasting time, and develop who you are, or know who raised you, and what kind of value they placed on you. And if you know your value, you never let anybody take that from you. Now, I say that for those of you who know your value, but I also know at the same time that there are many of you who do not have any idea of what you're worth, or what your full value is. I know that. So there is something that we need to look at, or you need to look at. If someone is interested in you, there would be no reason to show a house for sale to someone who cannot qualify to buy the house. That's the way it works. You know, realtors have no interest in just driving around all day showing people houses for the fun of it. They get paid by selling houses. And if a realtor knows that you have no buying power, you have no credit, you have no income, there's no reason, no incentive for a realtor to sell you a house, and there's no reason for an owner of a house to allow you to walk through their house when they know you cannot afford to buy it. Actually, it would give them the reason to think maybe you're just looking to see what you can steal, or how you can break in when nobody's home. Because sometimes the homeowner has not moved, and they're waiting to sell the house before they move. No one in their right mind is just going to allow you to look and search around their house, especially knowing that you don't qualify. You do not have any buying power. I'm using these terms and metaphors for you to know your value and to think about the men that you entertain. Do they have purchasing power? We're not talking about money, but I'm using money as a way to relate to value, your worth. Do they have what it takes to come on the inside of you, and how to help you in areas that you need help? And the word that I'm using is loving you the way that a woman is supposed to be loved. The only way that a woman can know how she is supposed to be loved is when she knows her value. That's the only way you can know. And I say, I know that many of you do not know how you're supposed to be loved. Many times you have not seen your father love your mother. You have not seen your mother demand love or communicate to you as a daughter how you're supposed to be loved, and really understand herself when she's telling you this is what it means to be loved by a man. There's so many devalued messages that are being sent out today about the exterior, and many of you have believed these messages, and you still wonder why you are alone, or why you can't stay in a long term healthy relationship. And many of the reasons are, or one of the reasons I would say, is because you've moved, as I said, someone into your community who does not know what to do to raise up your property value. When someone moves into a house and has the ability to take care of that property, that is one of the reasons why the bank will sell the house, because the house is not going to go down. The grass is going to be overgrown, and all the paint peeling and all those things. All of these items bring the value of the house down. A woman should know her value prior to meeting a man, and when she entertains a man like a buyer, a bank is looking at the ability that the buyer has to purchase, because the bank owns the house. And when the bank sells the house to the buyer is taking the responsibility of maintaining the house. And the bank who owns the house no longer has that responsibility, because the responsibility has been transferred from the bank to the homeowner. So when a woman, if she understands that, bringing a man into your life is about transferring responsibility to him, and also equity. Equity is what's already built into you. Now let's think about what I'm saying. If you have children that are 5 years old, any of you that drive a car, if you understand the value of your car and how much it's worth to you, you would not give the car keys to a 5-year-old, because you're transferring equity or value to someone who does not understand the value. And many of these young men today are like 5-year-old boys, who grown women are transferring their equity, their value over to them like a 5-year-old boy. So, oh, you let me have the keys to your car. Well, the child does not understand, even though the child may know how to start the car, because the child has watched the mother or the father start the car. But a child at 5 years old, in most cases, does not know how to drive a car and drive the car to the point of not causing an accident. And when you have an accident, you decrease the value of the car. I use these metaphors and examples to help you to understand, why do you transfer your emotions and your heart over to a man like a 5-year-old boy who does not have qualifying purchasing power? You're not even allowed to drive a car in the United States of America without a learner's permit. And even with a learner's permit, you need a licensed driver in the car while you're driving. All these are requirements to protect those that are on the highway. It's saying that you're qualified. But many of you do not require any qualifications from a man other than him being a male. Think about what I just said. Other than him just being a male. So why is there any incentive, or should there be any incentive or any reason for him to value you if you say you can come into my community, you can move into my space, without providing that you have the ability to manage this area of my life? Yeah, that you know how to associate and relate to me and increase my value, like tearing down old houses in a community. When you tear down the old houses, you build new houses and you raise up the property value. The right man coming into your life, he helps you to tear down some of the things that need to be gone. And he's increasing your value, because he brings value with himself by identifying your value. That's right. And only a fool will buy a house that's not worth anything. That's right. And many times people can look at a house and say, what I'm going to do with it after I buy it, I'm going to increase the value. I'm going to put a siding on it, or bricks, or additions, or whatever, swimming pool, whatever. I'm going to increase the value. Every woman needs to be thinking internally. A single woman I'm speaking of. Now, if you're already married, but you can think about this too. How is a man able to elevate and increase your value as a woman? Because nobody wants to decrease in value. Okay, in the market of selling and buying, Everybody knows that we all looking for a good deal. If I'm looking for an apple, and an apple costs us 50 cents, and if I see two apples, one is half rotten and the other one is whole, there's nothing wrong with it at all, I'm going to spend my 50 cents on the good apple, not the half rotten apple. And so are you. So are you. All of us, but I'm speaking primarily to you women, should know your value, know what you're worth. If you're a whole person, don't sell yourself as a half rotten apple, because that's how you're going to be treated. You know what you do with the rotten? You cut it off and you throw it away. So even though you allow a man into your life to entertain you and take up your time because of your exterior, and he's not interested in the treasure of your heart, he's going to throw it away like the rotten part of an apple. Now, I want to say, in this area of where I'm talking, it's important that you build a fortress, a fort, protect yourself. That's right. Build a fortress, a fort to protect yourself. And I'm talking about this in a way of the equity. If you truly know the equity that is built into you as an individual, if you know it, you're not going to give the equity away and take a loss on maximizing the return on the full value. If you understand what I'm saying, if you know that you have a whole apple and that apple is worth 50 cents, you're not going to let someone come by and purchase that apple for a quarter like the apple is half rotten. Because 2 quarters equal 50 cents. If you give yourself away like a half rotten apple and you know that you're whole, you've just reduced yourself 25 cents. It's all about equations. It's all about what this means to me. And when something is of value to you, then you can demand a return on your investment or the equity. You can demand a return on the equity that's already invested in that house. Nobody just gives equity away. Equity can be used, as I said, as leverage. Women, you have leverage. And I'm not only talking about your appearance. I'm talking about the treasure of your heart, the value that's been placed inside of you before you met a man. And if it has not been placed inside of you, I hope the thing that I'm saying to you will help you to start thinking about what I am worth, not how I'm being treated. Because you may be treated like you're worth nothing, but that doesn't mean you're worth nothing. You're actually worth a whole lot. And the more that you are aware of your worth and your value, your equity, then you begin to hold on to that item or those things dear, very dear. So, I'm not just letting this go any kind of way because I know I can do better. I can do better. I'm not going to sell this apple for 25 cents when I know it's worth 50 cents. And so again, you need an appraiser. You need someone to be able to speak to you. And that's what I'm trying to do, to give you an appraisal, to tell you how much you are worth. And when you know what you are worth, you can demand a return on your value, a return on the investment that is already inside of you before you ever meet a man. And when he meets you, a man knows when a woman knows who she is. Y'all hear what I said? I said a man knows when a woman knows who she is. And a man also knows when a woman does not know who she is. Just like a seller and a buyer. If the buyer knows that the house is worth more than what the seller is selling it for, the buyer's going to offer that seller some quick cash so that buyer can take that house and sell it and make the money and put it in his pocket that the seller could have made himself. Did y'all get that? I said it too fast. Play the video over later and listen to what I said. You move too fast because you don't know your value, and you give something away that's worth twice as much to the person that understands your value. Which means that the buyer is purchasing the house for less than what it's worth when it's understood what the equity is. The equity is worth $150,000. The buyer's getting it for $100,000. The buyer is purchasing the house for less than what it is worth, which means the buyer benefits because the buyer of the house can resell the house easily. But on the other hand, if the seller knows how much the house is worth, like a woman knowing how much she's worth, she's going to end up getting the good deal. Because if the seller knows that his house is worth $150,000, he's not going to sell it for $100,000. You hear what I said? If you know how much you're worth, you're not going to take nickels when you're worth dimes. All right? Now, I talked about building a fortress, and I want to talk about the external man. Are y'all listening to me? The external man in the interior woman. I was doing some cleaning to my vehicle last week, and I was out there thinking, men, I'm a man, and if you think about it, men spend more time cleaning the outside of a car than most women. Isn't that right? Agree with me. So men are very external about how things look. Men, generally speaking, not all men, but men, generally speaking, focus on the exterior of the house, the exterior of the car, and the exterior of you, the woman. Men are very external. I'm a man. We are very external. Are you listening to me? But the woman or women, generally speaking, percentage-wise, compared to men, when it comes down to the car, well, women like to have air fresheners in there, and like the car to be nice and clean, generally speaking. And with the house, the man will go cut the grass or like to, spend a lot of money on tools and working on things on the outside. But women like curtains and furniture and different things that appeal to them more so than the man. See, the man is more interested in generally speaking, on the outside of the house, but women like to put dinette sets and all things like that. If a man is into all of that, you better wonder what kind of man he is, sister, because if y'all having a problem about how the house look on the inside, maybe you're not really talking to a real man. It's the women that are about the curtain and the sheets and all of those things. The towels got to match this. Women are internal creatures, generally speaking. And so when it comes down to the house, to the car, then it relates to you. Men see women that say, woo, look at that. External. And if you don't understand women, you put yourself on the market like a house and you paint the outside of the house. But when the buyer comes inside the house and the outside does not agree with what's on the inside, or the outside is a false representation of the inside, that potential buyer is going to say, oh, I'm not interested because you fooled me. I thought the way the house looked out on the outside, I thought this was really a nice house. An external man can be attracted to you by the focus that you put on the outside of you. An external man, which most men are external. But women are interior, deal with the inside. Let me say it like this, and say it lightly without being offensive. Women, you know that you deal with a lot of internal issues, how you feel about things, the way that you want things to turn out, and you express them. And if you're not heard, you become very upset because you're not being considered about how you feel about things. These are the things that I say to women. Share those things in the beginning. Tell a man what you need, and don't tell him what he needs, or whether you understand what I'm saying. Tell him what you need, because he's already attracted because of what he wants. In order for him to get what he wants, he must have what he needs to get what he wants. But if you don't know your value, he doesn't need anything. Y'all listening to me? If a man doesn't know his value, he doesn't need anything, because you attract him like a fish. A fish is attracted to bait. You put the bait on the hook, and the fish in the water is caught only because there's some bait. There needs to be more to getting involved in a relationship other than an attraction from the exterior. And understand that most men are shallow, not too deep. And you need deep insight about the things that are going on with you prior to meeting him. Wanting him to understand how you function, how you feel, what you like, what you don't like. Most of the time, those things come up afterwards. And you can't be afraid about, well, I don't want to run a man away. Let me tell you something, young lady. If he's a real man, he's not going to run from you. He will run to you. Did y'all hear what I said? You hear what I said? Real men don't run from an assignment, an opportunity to enhance your life, to help you like no one else could ever help you. That's what makes him the man in your life. If he's running, it's because he's still a boy. You know, a boy run to their mom, mommy. He's still a boy. But if you share what you need internally with a man who's interested in you, he said, oh, I can't handle all of that, because he's not the man for you. He's only external. He's looking at you from the outside. So, whoa, look at that. But when you tell him what all that is, he says, oh my God, I don't think I can do this. So just make it plain. Put the full price up there from the beginning. Don't waste any time like a realtor. Don't waste any time selling, showing houses to people that don't qualify. When you understand equity, there's a risk of buying anything without researching the market value. It can be devastating, because no one, like a bank, will lend you money on a house to buy that nobody else wants, that nobody's interested in buying. It has no value to the bank. The bank will lend you money to buy a house because the bank will say, oh, it's worth the money and a little bit more. The bank wants to spend money on a house or lend money to you for a house because the house is worth the money, and most of the time a little bit more. All right? So it's a risk to buy a house or to let a person into your life who does not understand your value. Like a bank. A bank wants to know what it's worth before they get involved, before they invest. And then the other thing is, if you have never heard of an equity loan, an equity loan is, again, I used this in the beginning of this Facebook Live. If you have a house that's worth $150,000 and you paid $50,000 on the house and you only owe $100,000, you have $50,000 worth of equity or leverage that if you needed to borrow some money against the house to do major repairs, the bank would say, well, the house is worth $150,000, but you've already invested $50,000 of your own money. We will lend you some money to fix the roof, the plumbing, or whatever, put in things that you want to do. If you don't have cash or if you don't have the credit, the banks will lend you money towards the equity in your house. What I'm saying to you is, ladies, when you have equity built inside of you, it gives you leverage. It gives a man the ability to say, I was planning on buying me a car. I was planning on, going out overseas for vacation. I was planning on, but you know what? I want to spend this money on you. Y'all hear what I said? Not to impress you, but you have a need, and I'm able to help you with what you need, and not trying to impress you. There's a difference on a man showboating, showing his money, trying to impress you, and knowing that you are in financial dire. You're in financial stress. Well, if he sees something that's worth investing in, which is you, he said, I don't want to see her fail. I will give her what I want to use for myself to let her know how valuable she is to me. Now, listen, I'm not saying that's something that should be played with or taken lightly, because if a man invests in you because he sees your value, then he's not going to lose, is he? He's not going to lose, is he? Because he sees value. He doesn't see a deceiver or a player. Yeah. See, men have played women so long that a lot of women have become players. And everybody thinking they winning the game. Ain't nobody winning at all. All you doing, especially ladies, is decreasing your value by playing this game. I can talk to 2 or 3 people at one time. If he can do it, I can do it. Why would you want to be like him? He doesn't value anything. So you, as a woman being like a man, you just demoted yourself. You degraded yourself and started being a player, talking to 2 and 3 men just because the man you dealing with talking to 3 and 4 women. And then you want to be equal to his devalue, his no value, his low value? Come on now. Equity is something that's already built inside of you before you met that man. Your mother put it in you. Your father put it in you. Your community put it into you. Your teacher put it into you. Somebody told you who you were and what you were worth before you met that man. And now you have allowed yourself to be demoted just to be with him. Somebody who does not value at all. Well, I've been saying a lot today. I hope y'all are listening to me. There's a scripture in Proverbs. It says, Proverbs 31, and I'm trying to think of the verse. It talks about who shall find a virtuous woman. Talk about her price, her value. Who can find her? Where is she? In other words, it's hard to find a woman that really knows her value. Proverbs 31, I think it's 31 and 10. So who can find her? Where is she? Need a magnifying glass to find her. So her price, her value is far above a ruby. You know what a ruby is? A ruby is a diamond, a jewel. But the jewel at the time when it's found is not at its full value. When a diamond is found, it needs to be cut before it's put into a ring or a necklace. It needs to be cut by a jeweler. They cut it and they polish it. And that's how you get the full value. And many of you have not been through that process of someone knowing how to bring the full value out of you. So you just let them take you as a diamond in the rough, you know, just the rough, what they find in the cliff, in the rocks. But you're more valuable than what they found in the rocks if they know what to do with it. Somebody who knows what to do with you knows how to carefully cut and carefully polish you and bring out your full value. When you meet someone that's interested in how you're doing on the inside, the outside will take care of itself. But if you only attract men from the inside, it's like mosquitoes and flies. Flies don't care what you cooking in the house. They'll come in because there's something in there. Doesn't matter what it is. It could be the scraps. The flies will attach themselves to the garbage that don't nobody want. So you're not attracting a man of character just because he's attracted to you. He could be attracted to the trash that's inside of you. But if you know that there's no trash inside, when the fly comes in, you try to get the fly out because you don't want the flies on your good food. Isn't that right? Well, time is almost come and gone. I can't talk to y'all too long because I know this is heavy duty. This is heavy duty. Think about these Facebook Live forums that we're having. I want you to listen to them over and over again and think about the things that I'm saying to you. You're talking to a man, or you're listening to a man that's talking to you. And I believe that most of you women have never really been loved by a man. Until you know your value, you will never be loved by a man. And if a man approaches you with love because you have experienced so much abuse, you reject love because you think that something is wrong with a nice, caring, God-fearing man. That's right. Your mind can really become warped in thinking something is wrong when a man has God in his life. When you think about it, isn't that what you need? God in a man and God in you. And if both of you have God in you, that's the best thing you could ever have. Two people that respect one another, that believe in God, that believe in respecting people, respecting the community, know how to apologize and say, forgive me, and work through problems. That's a God-given relationship. That's a gift from God. And every woman should want a man who knows how to love her, because love is of God and God is love. All right, I'm through. Now, you can check these videos out again on our Facebook, Get Your Power Back, GYPB. Or you can follow us on YouTube. Write my name or type in my name, Leevone Brock, YouTube, Leevone Brock, YouTube. And all the YouTube videos should come up about most women have never really been loved by a man. And of course, there will be others. I like to talk about health, starting your own businesses, and relationships. Well, God bless you and have a smile upon you. Good day.